guys, it's Gilly Hunt here with my A to Z guide to Stampin' Up products, and we're up to the letter Q for quality and quick with the Stamparatus. And this is session 5. I'm doing 10 sessions on the letter Q because the Stamparatus is such an amazing device that I really couldn't cover it in just the one. So we're looking at session 5 at perfecting our designs, making circles and wreaths, a doddle, a great mixed backgrounds, and also we're going to look at the accuracy and grid positioning that you can do. So we're looking particularly today at quality. Okay, let's get going. So here I'm going to encourage you to do one mad crazy thing. Here is the plate from the top of the Stamparatus, and you'll notice, I'm sorry about the lights, I can't do anything about those. If you want to be able to see what I'm doing, we have to have some lights, and sadly they're not that diffused. One day I'll have very smart studio lights and they'll all be diffused, but as it is, this is what I can afford. So first of all, I want you to look, there's a wonderful grid pattern on each of the plates, and both the plates that come supplied with the Stamparatus have these lovely marks on, and they're actually etched into the design, so they're not added on, they are etched in, and that allows us to do one completely mad thing, and that is to draw on our plates using a Sharpie permanent marker. Oh no, don't panic. This is where I'm going to be advising you to do something that's really rather mad, and that is to scribble on your plates quite a lot. And in fact, I draw on mine all the time, absolutely all the time. And the reason you can do that is because you can then use the cleaner for the StazOn ink. Mine's looking rather murky. It comes with a nice white sponge in the top at the beginning, but mine's looking very murky by now. And what you do is you use the StazOn cleaner to get rid of those marks. And you can go to gillyhunt.com, to my shop, to buy all the things that we're going to show you today, including this cleaner. Then I'm going to just use a little piece of cloth to get rid of it. And last but not least, I am going to then use my chamois leather, which is, it's not chamois leather, it's just a chamois, which has plain water on. Because what we want to be sure of is not only do we get rid of the Sharpie marks, but we also get rid of the cleaning fluid. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of tissue just to dry it off, because we want to use this plate today. Now, why am I going to show you that you can do that? Well, because what I'm going to show you for the next couple of minutes is lots of things where I'm going to write on my plates. So let's bring in the Stamparatus itself. Here it is. We've already been introduced to this earlier on in the sessions, and I've got it just set up to do some rubber stamping. So we've got no foam mat. I'm just going to pop this down inside because I quite like to have an extra layer for me. And I am going to then bring in a plate which I have drawn all over with the marker pen. Now what I have actually done is I have, and I need to get this on a plain background for you. There we go. Sorry, I'm just going to get that out of the way because otherwise you're looking at two lots of grids here. Right, I have looked at the grids and I've put a little arrow to point to the point in the grid, the junction of the grids that I want to line my images up with. And I'm going to just show you me making it first, and then I'll explain a little bit more about what we're up to. So first and foremost, all I'm going to do is I am going to set my daisy, because this is my design, level with the one that I'm pointing to, level with these sides and up and down grids, so that I know that's nicely in place. I'm going to click it in. Remember, we put it vertically click it in and then flip it over. And I'm going to bring in a piece of Whisper White cardstock and stick that down so that that stays in place. And I've got Balmy Blue Stampin' Up ink, which is becoming one of my all-time favourites. And I'm just going to do something very simple. I am just moving the daisy. I'll show you in a moment. Oh, let's try that again. We missed that corner. There we go. That's the lovely thing about the Stamparatus. Remember, you can always go back if you just didn't quite put enough pressure on to get all the ink off the stamp. And what I'm doing is each time I am lining this daisy up with that little arrow that I've put on. And I'll explain the arrows in a moment. Oops, this might be in the way, so let's just get that out of the way. Okay, and I'm going to continue round. There we go. Let's move that back to there, out of the way. And move it round. And move it to there. The only trouble I'm having at the moment, I will explain to you, is that normally I would put my head over the top so that I could really see that they're lined up really accurately. But of course the problem is, if I do that, I put my head literally underneath the camera and you won't see what I'm doing. So you may have to just forgive me a little bit of leeway today, because it won't be that I couldn't line them up, it's just that I couldn't get my head in quite far enough. Although this does seem to be coming out very nicely, so ooh, there we go. Now, what I've been doing, and I'm going to show you on the back here because I've done all the ones I want to do. Oh, I better just check that that's done. Yes, it is. So let's move those out of the way. What I've done is when I first set this up, and it's probably easiest to see on the back, although I would have set it up this way round, I would have put this one down and decided I wanted to make a grid pattern. So I wanted to make a pattern that was a 9 by 9 square. Okay, and I wanted it to be nice and even and regular. So here I've been counting on the grid and I've thought, right, this daisy, when I put it on, takes up to about there, which is 1, 2.5 squares. In fact, it's just under a half, because remember, it's not quite as far as the rubber goes, it's just in a bit. So I then counted 5 squares across because I knew I could get the next daisy in and the next daisy. So if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and put a little arrow there, and 5 more and put an arrow there, and the same going down, 5 and 5, 5 and 5, 5 and 5, I have got the grid, and the points are where I'm going to put my design. So that allows me to make really lovely geometric designs. So now I'm hoping your imagination is beginning to run riot and you're beginning to think of all the things you could do with geometric patterns, because now you could do this tiny ones, you could put some extra ones in, you don't have to just do one, you could go back on these geometric points and say, I'd like a little something in between here. So I'm now going to put a little mark here, and I'm going to put, let's say, a leaf shape, and then I'm going to do the same here, and I'm going to put a leaf shape here and here and here and here and so on. In other words, once you know the principle, you can apply it as much as you like. So let's just finish this as if this was going to be a nice piece for a card. So into the middle, I'm just going to add, let me make sure it's the right way up. Now notice that I've brought in my window sheet. I'll move that. I've brought in the window sheet and I've made it right up to the corner. And I'm just going to put that in and see if that prints in the right place. So let's just give it a go. Remember, we use the window sheet so that we don't mark the actual card. And the good job we didn't, because that's on a very wonky wonk. So we need the T to go up a bit. So let's just move it again and try it again. And it's always worth doing this a couple of times just to make sure that you've got it nicely lined up before you go for it. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, so let's take that out of the way. Let's ink up our greeting for in the centre. There we go. And I have now got a really nice, ooh, that wasn't clever, a really nice start for a piece, which actually might be very nice as an interior design picture. I could work on that and add some extras, pop that into a frame, and wouldn't that make a really nice interior design piece? The best moments in my life happen with you. So now you understand why we're scribbling on our grids. It also means we can choose exactly where we want to put things. We can line things up in geometrical patterns. We can do whatever we like. So here's the next one we're going to try. So let's just bring in some more inks. Let me just, sorry, it's just going to take me a little while to get them. Now, I've brought in my little sketch as well for you to see. Because what I thought we'd do is I'd now talk you through, having seen the daisy and how that worked, I thought I'd actually talk you through how I put it together. So let me just first of all start with the fact that I've chosen this little sailing boat, which I think is rather lovely, from the Sail Away set. And what I've done is I have inked it up and just printed it roughly on a post-it note, which is a little bit sticky, although the stickiness is pretty much gone now. But that I've then roughly cut out just so we've got the dimensions. Okay, let's put that to one side. So here's my dimensions, and what I want to do is I want to create a pattern where this sailing boat, I had this idea that I wanted this sailing boat to be repeated across the page. So first of all, I chose a place to put it, and then I did just like I did with the daisy. I worked out if I put another one in beside it, but step down, where could I get the next one? And so with a pencil, I just sketched around it, and I sketched around that one, and then I put this one in, and I sketched around that one, and so on, until I had roughly what I wanted, just roughly. And then I looked to say, right, well, if I line up from that point there with the top of the mast, and I make sure I've got it nice and straight, and then I go for this point here with the mast, and then I go from this point, and so on. And what I ended up with then is a plate, transferring that idea onto a plate. Okay, and there is my plate. So I've done that. It's only rough, but the exact top points are exact, and I've counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across, 1, 2, 3, 5 across, and so on. And I've gone down and I've checked that there's enough room for everything to fit. Okay, so in it goes. Let's get going. Let's have a go with it. So let's get rid of that. Now I am going to bring in an L shape. If you remember, we use the L shapes because I want to do this straight onto a piece of card. Okay. And what I did was when I went onto my plate, oh, hold on, does that plate go that way? No, it doesn't. I must have done it without that. Okay, so I'm going to have to line this up carefully. Now I want to make sure that I line this up, and I had thought I'd done it to the template, but I obviously haven't. Okay, now I'm now checking mine to check that A, it fits, and B, it goes nicely and smoothly with the grids. So I'm checking that I'm on the same grid lines and that it's level. So let me just double check that that's going to come in okay. Yep, that should come in fine. And I'm just going to put that one at the bottom because I don't want it to be in the way of any of the pieces as I go across. Okay, so all I've done is I've marked where I want this to be. And here we go. Let's put the first one in. And I'm going to use real red. For the first one. And then I'm just going to wipe it and I'm going to move it. And because I can use the grids, I can really accurately place each one of these. So let's go for the next one, which I'm going to have pumpkin pie. You'll see why in a moment. You'll sort of get my pattern. Hopefully you'll get my pattern anyway. And I'm going to move it on to the next point, make sure that's lined up. Okay, and each time I'm using the grid to guide me. It's quite hard for you to see the grid, I'm afraid, but believe you me, each time I'm just double checking that that's lined up on the grid point. There we go. And I'm hoping that this will be a real rainbow celebration card. Kind of, we've got rainbows on our mind a little bit with all the over in Britain. I don't know about everywhere else that you're listening and watching from, but over in Britain we're using the rainbow as our kind of symbol of our National Health Service, and so it kind of made me think, wouldn't that be nice to just celebrate that a little bit in a quiet way on one of my cards. So there we go. Let's just get that off and out of the way before we end up all gooey with it. And I'm going to just add a few little pieces to make this even more fun. So like I did before, I'm going to bring back the window, because I want to get this lined up and I want to make sure it's the right way up. I want to line this up so it's sort of in the middle. Let's just try it. Yep, that's lovely. I could probably have done that without lining it up, but the nice thing with the Stamparatus is you don't have to kind of judge it, you just can just try it. So there's our thanks, and I'm going to just add two more little pieces if I can find them. Oh, there they are. And I'm going to go for these. Which way up? That way up. Ooh, nearly dropped that. Did you see me doing a quick juggling act? And I'm just going to do a couple of little we'll just do those a little bit darker. There you go. We'll not make those completely symmetrical, we'll just leave those flying in the air as they are. And there we have a rather fun little card, which I probably am going to put a little piece of embellished rope or something across, like a baker's twine, a coloured baker's twine or something would be nice on that, wouldn't it? But can you see what we're doing? What we're doing is we're using the grids and we're spotting where we're going to attach things to make repeat patterns as easily and as simply as that. There's no worries, there's no hassle, there's no trying to judge it. Have I got it right? Have I not got it? If it's on the guidelines and it's on the grid lines, you've got it for certain. Isn't that brilliant? Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to go absolutely mad. And we're going to do something using a much more random pattern. Okay, now I'm going to put the foam mat in because we're now going to be working with an acrylic stamp. And remember, when you've got an acrylic stamp, you need to be using the foam mat. So let's just pop this in. And now what I want to show you is my workings for this as well. So let's make sure that's really well lined up. Now I want that to be lined up so that the squares are absolutely in line with my corner piece here. Okay, so I'm just making sure they're absolutely spot on. There we go. Let's just put a magnet on to make sure. Now we're going to now look at doing a design which has 90-degree turns, and we're going to have 4 turns of them. And I've set this one up ready because I just thought we're going to have such a long video otherwise. And I think it's fairly easy to see. What I've done is I have divided my size of my card, which is going to be a 10 by 10 card because I'm going to do squares. This is for using for squares. And I've taken this bottom quarter. So that's a 5 by 5 square. And what I did was I laid out some really pretty little teeny weeny little designy things on it, which you'll see when they print in a moment. And it doesn't matter what you use, but nice little tiny designs work really well for this, and a kind of mixture of all sorts. I've done them with children's things, with little cats and dogs and bones and things like that, and I've done them with little flowers and leaves and things like that. Nice little tiny greetings work very well for this. So it's up to you, but what we're doing is we're packing them all into this one little quarter. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do then is bring in our piece of paper that we're going to use, and this has to be cut to the exact size. You can't cut it slightly bigger and then cut it later. I'll show you why in a moment, because we're going to turn it as we go. So you're going to start off then with a piece which is, well, I'm just double checking that I've picked up the right piece for later on. Yes, I have. Okay, I've got 2 squares and I suddenly realised they're just marginally different sizes. So this is 10 by 10, and I'm going to just ink this up as a fun design. I'm going to just do it in black. So we have a nice monochrome. But you can spend ages just deciding where you want to lay out your little bits and pieces. And now I've inked it up, you'll be able to see what I've chosen. I've chosen all sorts of little teeny things. Okay, and this is why, oops, it's important to go back into this corner because I've just missed the thank you. Let's just give that an extra press. There we go. Okay. And now what's going to happen is I'm going to turn the whole thing 90 degrees and put it back in. Okay, let's just put that on there to stop it moving. With any luck, we won't have the same problem of it moving so much next time. And I'm going to just tap, 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 and bring it over. Okay, and actually that was giving a little bit. So do you remember in the first or second video I said sometimes it's easier to have a little bit of a case underneath? I don't always, as you can tell. I haven't been all day today, but just occasionally it feels like it doesn't quite ink up properly if it's on a slope. So now the next thing we do is we take the whole thing and we turn it 90 degrees and off we go again. Take it off, turn the whole thing 90 degrees, make sure it's right and properly into that. And this is where having a right angle is so important. Of course you could work into this corner, but remember we said in I think it was session 1 or 2, sometimes you get a slightly weaker spot for stamping right by the hinges. So it's best if you just make yourself a really good right angled template to go into this section. Go back in the sessions to see how we did that. There we go. And I am going to just finish this off. Let me show you. Hold on. Let's move that out of the way and that out of the way. I'm just going to finish this off with a little bit of an extra and I'm going to do this in black. Oh, I don't know why I got the blue out. I am going nuts. Right, I've got a little posy here that I'm just going to stick into the middle. There we go. And I'm just going to add some colour to this. That's why I got the blue out, because my note said take the blue, but I'd forgotten it's the blue ink, not the blue. Okay, and I'm just going to colour this in, because it's a little posy to go with the thank you message. And there you go. Mount that up and you have a very nice, rather sweet little card. And here's another one that I've done with the same kind of things, just put in a different order. But doesn't that make a wonderful at random card? But because you've done that quarter turns, you actually get a symmetry to your randomness. Although you've chosen lots of different things in lots of different orders and it feels random, your eye, it's very soothing on the eye because your eye can pick up pattern. And it doesn't just go, ooh, messy. It goes, oh, yes, there's a design to that. There's a pattern to that. Okay, so there you go. A thank you card in 2 or 3 different ways using what I call Gilly's Global. It's moving it around globally, round the globe. Okay, so that's another idea. And last but not least, I'm going to show you an amazing way to use your Stamparatus. Now, this calls for using templates. So up until now, we've been looking at and using the actual grids and the paper and the grids on the back of the plates. Now we're going to actually introduce an actual template that we've made. Okay. And I'm just going to put it down beside it on the green because I think it's easier for you to see. Now, how I've made this is I have cut out, and it tells me here how big it is because I've got loads and loads of these. I've cut lots of these at different times. I've cut out a 9 by 9 centimetre square. And then I've used that 9 by 9, I've done it with a scalpel actually. But you could do it on your trimmer really neatly and carefully. But then I've used that 9 by 9 as a template and I've turned it on its side. So that was the bit I cut out. Then I've turned it and I've made sure it's absolutely accurately centered. And I've gone round it so that I now have a 2, 4, 6, 8 pointed star. Okay, now you could make that any size you like in the centre. You could make it a 10 by 10, an 11 by 11, a 2 by 2, whatever you like. But whatever size you make it will be the size of card that you end up printing. So this is going to be a small square, which is 9 by 9. Okay, so make yourself one of these templates, simple and easy to do. And then you're going to put your 9 by 9 cut piece of card into it in one direction. So it'll only go in one direction to start with. Okay, now you're going to bring in your plate, clip that in. Okay, and this time we're going to make a wreath. And this is a fabulous way of making Christmas wreaths, but I thought we've all made Christmas wreaths before, so I thought I'd make a Valentine's one instead. Okay, so I'm just putting a little piece of leaf there. Oops. And we better do what we always say we should do, and that's put the magnets on. Okay, and I'm going to start with, what have I got? Oh, pear pizzazz for a little bit of a nice looking leaf. So there's one. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm now going to take this in the same way as we were doing quarter turns, but this time we're just going to turn it just into the next point of this star. Okay, pop that on again. Now we haven't moved the stamp on the plate, we have just moved the actual piece of paper. Okay, we're going to do it again. So take this and we're going to just move it around 1 point. Okay, and again we haven't moved the stamp's still there, just re-ink it, that's all we're doing each time. And we're going to take it and we're going to move it around 1 point. And I think you've got the message, so let me whiz along and see if I can get these done relatively quickly for you. Move it round. And done. Move it round. Move it round. I bet you're getting fed up with me saying move it round, move it round, move it round. It sort of sounds a bit like some kind of mad dance. Sounds like the Okie Kokie. There we go. And that has now given you a circular wreath shape. So let's add to it. We could just leave it like that and put a really nice greeting in the middle or do something else with it. But I'm going to leave it there because I might want to do the same wreath again. So I'm going to leave it on the plate like we did before. Turn the plate over and use the back of the plate. And I have a little heart here which I want to just tuck in, let's say there. Sort of, it leads itself to a heart shape. See, I did put a bit of thought into this before I started. Okay, this is where it all goes wrong for me. There we are. Right, we're going to just melon mambo a little heart in, and we're going to do exactly the same. Just turn it round, and I'm going to try and do it without the magnet because this is only small. It just makes it quicker to turn for you, otherwise you're going to be sitting watching me till the cows come home. That's such a wonderful expression. I don't know where it came from. If anybody knows where it came from, do let me know. Oop. Each time I'm just turning it one little excuse me. Here we go. And round we go again for the last one. And I now have for you a really nice little wreath pattern. So I've just shown you from the Stamparatus what you can do in terms of making something laid out in a geometric pattern. I've showed you how we can, ooh, excuse me leaning over, how we can take the idea of using the grid to line things up on a regular basis so we can get some regular shapes. And I've also shown you how to do a 90 degrees turn as well. And now finally a wreath, and I hope that's given you some amazing ideas of what wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things you can do with the Stamparatus. And I haven't finished, I'm still only up to number 5. So come back for 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 and see what we get up to. Thanks very much. Bye bye.